video shows what appears to be the moment the 737 is hit, just hours after Iran fired missiles at U.S. forces in Iraq. Iran's angry response this morning. Now the U.S. is joining the investigation.
Bracing for impact. Millions now in the path of a major storm on the move from Texas to Maine, bringing snow, ice, flash flooding, and tornadoes. Ginger's here, tracking the latest.
Royal rift. Queen Elizabeth calling an emergency family meeting after that shocking announcement from Harry and Meghan, defying the monarchs, saying they're stepping back from being senior royals. Now Meghan heading back to Canada to reunite with baby Archie. Our royal insider here with the very latest.
Raging wildfires. Conditions worsening right now in Australia as those dangerous winds pick up. The new hazard for firefighters on the front lines.
Glacier rescue. 39 tourists, including children, some buried up to their necks in snow. Nearly 200 rescue workers racing to save them.
Body shaming backlash. What superstar singer Lizzo is saying after celebrity trainer Jillian Michaels questions her weight and her health.
And one win away. Ken Jennings now on the verge of becoming the greatest Jeopardy player of all time, taking the lead overnight. We're behind the scenes. Who will be the last champ standing?
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America, and happy Friday to everybody out there. The battle to be the best is underway on Jeopardy. Ken Jennings just one win away from claiming the title of GOAT, greatest of all time. But as we know, anything could happen.
There's got to be a Hall of Fame for that.
Good music choice this morning.
Yeah, that was good. But we are a very busy Friday here. We've got a lot of news to get to, and we're going to begin with those new developments in that deadly plane disaster in Iran. Growing suspicion this morning that the Ukrainian airliner was brought down by an Iranian missile.
Iran is still denying responsibility, but new video has surfaced appearing to show the moment a missile hits down in the jet, killing all 176 people on board. Our senior transportation correspondent David Curley starts us off with the latest. Good morning, David.
Morning, George. Despite the growing chorus from national leaders and a growing body of evidence from the intelligence community, Iran continues to deny that it shot down this jetliner over its airspace, even though these videos have come out from Iran showing what appears to be a direct hit. Iran this morning denies that this is the moment of impact, a skyward missile hitting that 737, a momentary flash of light, and seconds later, an explosive sound. Taken from a neighborhood where the Ukrainian jet was last tracked, the video appearing to confirm what a U.S. source tells ABC News, that intelligence sources are confident an Iranian anti-aircraft missile hit that jetliner. This video of the crippled jet captured in this Tehran neighborhood, the jet in flames breaking apart and exploding 3 miles away. The power of that ground impact captured by a CCTV camera and shown on Iranian media. This morning, national leaders from Britain, even Ukraine, echoing what Canada's Prime Minister first declared.
The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional.
63 Canadians were among the 176 lost in the crash. The American intelligence community believes that Iran turned on and aimed a radar at the jetliner, a radar signal to guide anti-aircraft missiles from a mobile launcher. A U.S. satellite saw the firing of 2 missiles at the 737. The warheads of those missiles would explode near the aircraft, blowing into bits of shrapnel that would pierce the aircraft in multiple locations. Pictures of the wreckage seem to highlight holes blasted through the jet, shrapnel holes. Experts suggest that just less than 4 hours after Iran had fired missiles at American targets in Iraq, tensions were high at the Iranian anti-aircraft batteries, and a mistake may have been made, which killed dozens of Iranians as well as Canadians.
They were basically the kindest souls that I knew.
Many of those Canadians on board were students.
Words simply cannot express the grief that we are feeling on campus. We're a close-knit community.
The Ukrainian president paused for those lost as he called for an open investigation and for the West to share that radar and satellite data. Iran has been defiant, an official claiming it was scientifically impossible to shoot down the jetliner. But look at what the Iranian government did. This was the scene just after the crash. ABC News obtained this exclusive video just about 24 hours later, and the wreckage has been cleared, the evidence gone. Iran again this morning showing off the black boxes, but apparently has not pulled the data from either one. The answers to this tragedy are in those boxes. Iran has now invited some Western countries to get involved in the investigation, including the United States. But because of a technicality, the NTSB cannot accept that invitation yet because of the sanctions on Iran. We'll wait to see if the Trump administration allows the NTSB to be part of that investigation, which would then probably bring in Boeing as well. Cecilia?
Okay, David Curley, thank you. There are still so many questions about this, so let's bring in our aviation analyst, Steve Ganyard. Steve, good morning. So assuming this was an accidental shoot down, how could something like this happen?
It's inconceivable, isn't it, Cecilia? How could you shoot down an airliner with innocent civilians? But think about it. You had a poorly trained crew, Iranian crew, in the middle of a field, in the middle of the night, thinking that they were about to get attacked, and they see an aircraft, they lock it up, they pull the trigger, and they shoot. A terrible, terrible mistake. And it's happened before. You remember the Malaysian air shoot down just 5 years ago in the Ukraine. In 1988, a U.S. Navy ship shot down an Iranian jet. And in 2001, you had a Ukrainian battery shoot down a Russian airplane. So unfortunately, these terrible mistakes have happened in the past.
We saw that video as you were talking now and in David's piece that seems to show the crash site already cleared. What happens to this investigation now?
Well, as David said, we need to get international investigators in there as soon as possible, because when you ball up all the wreckage like that, it's think of it like a crime scene. You're contaminating the crime scene. You're not able to piece together what actually happened based on what's remained. So we need to get international investigators in there and be able to look at the wreckage and piece together and find out what really brought this down and prove that it was a missile that the Iranians shot at this airplane. So
if there is no crash site, the Iranians are now saying that the black boxes were damaged. Is all the evidence gone?
Cecilia, actually, in this case, I don't think the black boxes are going to be as helpful. They will show that this was a perfectly good airplane right up to the moment of impact. What we need to do is look at the metal of that aircraft, look for things like residual powder, look for shrapnel, the kinds of things that would prove that this actually was brought down by a missile. The Iranians are doing their best to cover that up, and so getting international investigators in there as soon as possible so we can tell the truth to the world is the most important thing that needs to be done now.
So many questions. Okay, Steve Ganyard, thank you. Michael?
And Cecilia, these developments come as an Iranian general now says that missile launch on U.S. forces in Iraq was just the first stage. Our senior foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, is in Erbil, Iraq, with more. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Michael. Overnight, new threats from Iran. A top Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander, General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, calling on all their proxy groups throughout the region to take action, saying the missile strikes were the start of, quote, big operations that will continue. The commander saying that they could have killed hundreds and thousands of U.S. troops if they'd chosen to. Now, the flags behind the general, interestingly, represent various pro-Iranian militias from Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen, even Afghanistan, some prescribed as terrorist organizations by the U.S. And, of course, this is a sign of how far and wide Iran's influence stretches. What it shows is that we're not out of the woods yet, and tensions are really going to persist as long as this threat goes on and as long as U.S. forces remain in the region. George?
Okay, and thanks very much. The Iran crisis front and center of President Trump's campaign rally in Ohio overnight as he faces a looming impeachment trial and growing questions about the evidence used to justify the killing of Iran's top commander. Our senior national correspondent Terry Moran is tracking it all at the White House. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, George. Today, the president's going to announce new sanctions on Iran on the country's ruling elites and non-oil industries, while many here in Congress are working towards some kind of new check on presidential war-making powers. With growing calls from Congress to provide the actual evidence used to justify the U.S. strike on Qasem Soleimani, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo stopped short of sharing specifics.
There is no doubt that there were a series of imminent attacks that were being plotted by Qasem Soleimani. We don't know precisely when, and we don't know precisely where, but it was real.
But at his rally last night, President Trump continued to claim there was a plot to attack U.S. embassies.
Soleimani was actively planning new attacks, and he was looking very seriously at our embassies, and not just the embassy in Baghdad. But we stopped him, and we stopped him quickly, and we stopped him cold.
Democrats and some Republicans have criticized the administration for offering contradicting information and still no hard evidence that an attack was imminent.
With the president's actions last week, he endangered our servicemen and women, our diplomats.
The House delivering a sharp but largely symbolic rebuke on Thursday, passing a non-binding measure on a mostly party line.
The bill is passed,
demanding that unless President Trump receives congressional approval, hostilities against Iran must end within 30 days. But the president says in some circumstances, he cannot wait on Congress.
Now they want us to call, can you imagine calling crooked Adam Schiff? Say, gee, Adam, how you doing? Listen, we have the world's #1 terrorist, killed thousands and thousands of people. We'd like to set up a meeting so we can discuss his execution.
Many lawmakers are fuming over what they say are inadequate briefings from administration officials about the attack on Soleimani. They said there was no mention of any evidence of attacks on U.S. embassies. George?
And Terry, as I said at the outset, the impeachment trial is still looming, but nobody knows exactly when. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi still holding on to those articles of impeachment. All she's saying is she'll send them to the Senate soon.
Soon, that's all we know, George. She's still looking for leverage, holding the articles of impeachment, trying to get Mitch McConnell to call witnesses in the trial of the president in the Senate. So far, it hasn't worked, and she's risking losing momentum on this impeachment. It feels more like a highway bill right now than a constitutional impeachment. George?
Okay, Terry Moran, thanks so much. The speaker will be my exclusive guest Sunday on This Week. Cecilia?
Okay, George, we're going to turn now to the dangerous storm barreling across the country, threatening to hit millions with severe weather starting today, bringing snow, flash flooding, and tornadoes. Ginger is back and here with all the latest. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, Cecilia. An abundance of dangers across the map here. You can see ice from Kansas City up to West Michigan, floods all the way to Vermont, and then severe storms. And that's why I want to focus everybody right now on the deep south, from Texas through Oklahoma, into the plains, even parts of it, Arkansas and Louisiana. What we're going to see is this front come through. You can see the streamlines here. We have that moisture and heat coming up right against that much colder air. You know there are going to be storms, and this is a sobering severe weather episode that could happen today, because we're going to see these start to erupt in a couple of waves. Within those waves, you could see isolated storms, probably not ahead, but within the storm structure, the damaging wind line. That's west of I-35. But then look at this. It all becomes a 75+ mile-per-hour wind gusts possibilities. Hail could be in there, too. And this goes all the way east into western Tennessee by tonight, Michael.
A little bit of everything, Ginger. Thank you so much. And now to those explosive newly released messages from Boeing about the now grounded 737 MAX jets. In internal documents, employees mocked the FAA and even appear to conceal problems from regulators before those two crashes that killed nearly 350 people. Whit Johnson has the details.
A trove of documents released overnight paint an embarrassing picture for Boeing and its handling of the 737 MAX. Hundreds of emails and instant messages show employees mocking the FAA, the company, and problems with the airplane. In one exchange, a Boeing employee asks, "Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft?" "I wouldn't." Another, apparently joking, says, "I still haven't been forgiven by God for the covering up I did last year." Several others blast the aircraft's designers, one writing, "This airplane is designed by clowns, who in turn are supervised by monkeys."
The question is whether or not it reflects the attitude of a wider group of people at Boeing. That would be very difficult for the company to overcome without doing a lot of housekeeping.
Still others are slamming federal regulators, claiming the FAA were neither thorough nor demanding and failed to write up many issues.
After all, Boeing has nothing to gain and everything to lose by being slapdash on safety. However, if the attitude is we're going to mislead the FAA, then that's something that has to be addressed.
The fastest selling jetliner ever for Boeing, the MAX, was grounded following two deadly crashes, killing nearly 350 people.
Boeing released a statement apologizing, saying in part, "These communications do not reflect the company we are and need to be, and they are completely unacceptable." The FAA called the tone and content disappointing, but said there's nothing in these documents that points to any new safety risks. In other words, something they didn't already know about.
But these emails just blow you away.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This has been so much trouble for Boeing.
Yeah.
Okay, Wood, thanks very much. We're going to move on now. Switch gears, that blockbuster Jeopardy showdown after last night's match. Ken Jennings now just one win away from the greatest of all-time crown. Our crack Jeopardy correspondent, TJ Holmes, is here. Good morning, TJ.
I'm not going to say thank you for that new title, George. Look, first 2 nights of this competition came down to the very last clue. So a lot of suspense. Last night wasn't the case, right? Night 3 was different, but it was the shock of this tournament because of James Holzhauer. The phenom was blown out. Yes, the guy known as Jeopardy James. You're just plain old James last night.
The battle to win $1 million continues on Jeopardy!
Night 3 of Jeopardy's greatest of all-time tournament. And Jeopardy James Holzhauer looked mortal.
What are wagons? No. What is the Columbia?
No.
Tsitsiji?
No. At one point, even losing everything in one of his famous all-in daily doubles.
Gemstone 6.
Answer daily double.
Presto Changeo 5,000.
All right.
What is diamond?
No, what is garnet? All right, you're tied with Ken and Brad.
And look who decided to show up. Brad Rutter. After rough showings the first 2 nights and coming in last, Rutter showed signs of life and was in it for a stretch.
Brad.
It was John Irving?
Right.
But instead, Ken Jennings dominated, building a lead by betting it all Jeopardy James style.
I think I have to do it, Alex. 9,200 points. All in, baby.
It was a move that was too risky for comfort.
I don't want to do that again.
But it was enough to give the 74-game champ a comfortable lead, and he coasted the rest of the way.
This 2-word phrase marks the end of friendly generational relations. Ken.
I get to say it to Alex. What is OK Boomer?
Thank you.
Jennings told me at the tapings he was ready to turn the tables on Holzhauer.
I'm not an aggressive Jeopardy player by nature. I like to play comfortably and have fun out there, but I think there's going to be some big bets.
And a win last night for Jeopardy's writers. They stumped all 3 of the so-called greats on the final Jeopardy clue.
Who are Ang Lee and Gonzalez Inarritu? No.
Holzhauer and Rutter instead tried to be funny. Trebek, not amused.
You started to write Pat Sajak, is that right?
What?
I wish you had risked more points. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Jeopardy Comedy Hour.
So a little fun last night with these guys, but yes, said Brad Rutter, show me something, Brad Rutter. He still came in third, just not as distant of a third, so we'll take it.
But he still got a shot.
He still got a shot. They start again on Tuesday, next week.
It'd be the greatest comeback of all time.
It would be. It would be.
Okay, TJ, thanks very much. We are following a lot of other stories this morning, including the Queen calling an emergency family meeting after Harry and Meghan publicly defy her. This as Duchess Meghan flies to Canada to be with baby Archie. We're going to have a Palace Insider join us the latest on that. But first, Ginger is back from covering those devastating wildfires in Australia.
And you know, this morning, credible outlets are saying up to 25 million acres burned now. That's a huge jump, but I anticipated it because while we were there, guys, we drove the distance as if we drove LA to San Francisco, and it was all burnt. And that's just the part I drove. You can imagine that blackened earth just never ending, right? And so that's what we experienced. But you know that there are more than 1 billion animals dead. They're worried that some of those species are now going to be extinct. We also worry that it is far from over. If I can show you the forecast, the temperatures there have been 102 in places that still have the potential to burn. And so we're concerned about that and the wind today. But we're very happy. More than 100 firefighters showed up, more than 140 coming from the U.S. Your local weather is in 30 seconds. First, though, the Weekend Getaway is sponsored by Planet Fitness.
Backed by popular demand, join Planet Fitness for just 20 cents down, $10 a month, no commitment. You could spend a lot to ride the bike of shame.
Give her the hiss of shame.
Or, for 20 cents down, $10 a month, find your own lane. Get tons of cardio, strength equipment, and free fitness training. Ring in 2020 for just 20 cents down, $10 a month, no commitment. And no hissing. Join in club or at planetfitness.com. Deal extended to January 16th.
Well, happy Friday, or should I say Friday. It's going to be very mild today and then warm for the weekend. So as soon as you're off the clock or even before that, make plans to get out this weekend. Temperature starting out above freezing this morning. We're close to 50 by noon, and then we're on into the lower and mid 50s this afternoon. Sure, there'll be some clouds around today, but looking like low rain chances. The best rain chance early Sunday morning, but still temperatures stay well up, feeling more like April than January.